I'm just going to dial this back.
Yep. All right, I'm going to let this refresh a little bit.
20% maybe?
What's happening, everybody? Sorry for the delay here. We're still adding some new lighting. Oh, that's Robert off camera. We're adding some new lighting, and we had a little bit of an issue with, and it already just turned off. So, oh well, we're having a little bit of an issue with some power flow to some of our new lights. So sorry for the delay, but we're here. Welcome back to another Horological Happy Hour. Rob is going to join me in just 1 second. There he is.
Hello.
And we're going back. We're going old school this week. We're going to give you guys a little bit of just a straight up new arrivals happy hour. We got a table full of some ridiculous stuff.
Some really nice things this week.
Yeah, really, really cool stuff, really interesting stuff. Hopefully you guys are as interested in it as we are. And if there's anything else that you guys do want to see, you know, as always, call it out in the chat. We'll do our best to monitor. That light went out too. That's okay. We'll get it figured out for the future. But slowly but surely, our setup is getting better. So
we're getting there.
Yeah,
we're getting there.
Cheers. So, yeah, cheers, my friend.
Here's to Thursday.
Here's to Thursday.
Cheers to all
cheers,
of you.
everybody.
Thank you for joining us as
Drinking
always.
some lovely German beer today.
October.
All right. So, Robert, why don't you vamp for a minute? I'm going to throw a note in the Instagram stories because we have 6 people. I just want to let everybody know that we're a little bit late, but we're
here.
Coming in hot.
We're here. We're not that late. I mean, I don't have my watch on because I'm going to be trying on all these watches. We're 6 minutes.
I know. I just want to let everybody know that we're here.
All right. Yeah, we've got a lot of amazing stuff that's come in that we've been working on getting up on the website, so we thought we'd share some of that with you. Last week we went a little differently, and we did an episode on questions for connoisseurs, which is a new segment we're looking to do that will introduce all of us here at EWC to you guys out there on a deeper, more personal level. And then hopefully, once we get all the staff done and everything, we'll expand it out and invite other watch enthusiasts and collectors to join us and broaden that appeal a little bit there as well.
We, if you didn't notice, I did on our YouTube page, I put a post up with the questionnaire, and actually like 25, 26 of you guys did take that, so thank you for participating. If you guys do want to check it out, go to our YouTube page, or actually you're already on it if you're watching this, but go to the post on our YouTube page, click the link, and you can take the questionnaire as well. Like Rob said, we're going to be trying to like compile answers and really, you know, honestly keep like a scoreboard kind of thing and make it a little bit of like a running feature. So
yeah, it'd be cool to see as we start to get kind of more responses where that goes. And speaking of our YouTube page, since you're already there, why don't you go and click that subscribe button while you're there? And if you hit the little bell icon, you'll be notified of when we're going live for both the Horological Happy Hour and the Take 5s that we do on Friday with 5 of our new watches. So, let me see. I don't want to start with this one, even though I kind of do.
Of course you want to start with the Panerai.
I think actually, let's start with this guy. Because this has been getting a lot of excitement on our website recently. So, this is kind of interesting because everybody knows about Tiffany stamped Pateks and the deal behind that. And this is kind of cool because I've never seen one of these stamped before. So, I just thought this was really, really interesting. Let us know if this feed is a little bit dark. We can turn up that light if we need to because we lost our overheads, but we'll get that straightened out. So this is a reference 5000, and this is an older Patek. This is probably what, like late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere in there.
I think it's early 2000s, but let me confirm for you right now.
We have one of Patek's absolute best movements with the caliber 240 micro rotor. And one of the cool things about that movement is that it puts the small seconds off center over here, which is pretty neat. I love asymmetry in all ways. I like it on cases, I like it on dials, and so I think it's pretty great. This is not a combination we have seen very much.
No.
This double rose like this, where it's a rose case with this rose dial, we've only seen this, I think, 3 times in the like 18 years we've been running that database, something like that.
This is the 6th one we've ever had. Yeah, rose with the salmon dial. This is obviously the first Tiffany one, and I'm actually just looking, because I love to look and see when we've had multiples of the same watch, and especially a rare watch, I like to see if we've had the same serial. and it looks like we've had 6 different versions, or examples, which is kind of wild.
So, as a little bit of background, in case you don't know, Tiffany and Patek have a relationship that goes back decades. They were obviously always a very high-profile dealer. They were a high-profile dealer of Patek Philippe. And then when they were selling them, they reached an agreement with Patek. This was a bigger thing kind of back in the 60s, the 50s and the 60s. You see a lot of double-stamped Pateks. And you'll see dealers from South America, like
Serpico Lino or Argentinian, I believe.
And you see, what's the German one that you see all the time with a G? I'm blanking.
I got nothing now.
Oh, this is so bad. One of you knows. One
Put
of
it in
you
the chat,
out there.
please.
Who is the German dealer that stamps Pateks with a G? We see a lot of them. And then there's the Frachero ones. Gubelin. Yes, Gubelin stamp Pateks. And the only one that still does it to this day is Tiffany & Co.
Right.
And apparently they only about 1% of the Pateks sold in their total production are allowed to have that Tiffany stamp. So it is a very exclusive thing. It's a very rare thing. And a lot of people might be looking at this on the website and saying, oh, 33 is really small. It's not.
It's not. It's
really
funny. So
not.
I snapped. Oh my gosh. And just like that, this watch is pending sale.
No.
Yeah.
It's gone?
Oh wow! And it's going to a very.
It's gone.
It's going to a usual suspect here at EWC. Yeah, our colleague Tony just sold it. But like Rob,
what's the year on it? While you're in there?
The papers are undated, so it's stamped Tiffany, but they are undated. So, but like Rob was saying, so you might be thinking, when you look at the specs on this watch, 33 mil, 7.5 mil thick, you might think, that's really dainty. I don't think that's going to work. But honestly, it's very interesting. Whatever, I don't know what it is. It's the case proportions or whatever it is about it.
To say,
it really works. I
think it's the lugs, because it's not a short lug to lug. Like, those are generous lugs on this watch. So when you have this on, it doesn't have the appearance of a 33 mil watch. Sure, it's not very wide this way, but it's quite tall from top to bottom. So it almost it still fills it out. I'd wear this.
And so someone actually asked in the comments from our video last week after the fact, asking for reference what Robert and I's wrist sizes are. And so I have about a 6.5-inch wrist. You have about a 7 1/4?
7 1/4.
Yeah. So, I have a small wrist. Rob has a very, very average wrist. But honestly,
most average.
Most average. But really, that 33, don't let, if you're looking at a listing, anywhere, don't let something that's 33, 35 turn you off, because really, even pieces that are actually only 33 mil can really work and can really fit. And perfect transition, Robert.
Like this one.
Like that one.
Before I do this, real quick, for those of you in the chat, Tiffany stamp Pateks, would you pay a premium? Yes, no. Because it's always a bit of a hot topic there. So I'm always curious as to how people look at a Tiffany stamped watch and how they view it. Because some of it, this carries a fairly modest premium over a standard 5,000. We didn't mark it up exorbitantly, but you look at some of the steel stuff, and that's still getting like a double premium.
No, honestly, I think at the peak back in 2020, 2021, 2022, we were seeing Tiffany Pateks at a 2x premium, but honestly now it's like 1.5. I think.
I don't know. I think if you have like a 5711 Tiffany, you're still gonna get
just a standard 5711 blue dial, like dark blue dial Tiffany.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's 2x, but I don't know. Good. Whatever.
So, thinking of Pateks in a great size, I think this is a 5060, but I would like it if you could confirm.
What's the stock number on that guy?
This is number 54969. Okay. That was hard to read. 9s and 6s all.
5066.
5066.
Yep.
And this, I think, they measure as a 35.
35, yep.
But that 35 measurement is this way. Patek measures these from like 130 to 730. here. It's a strange kind of thing, and that's why when you look at Aquanauts and Nautilus on the website, some people measure them this way, then some dealers go and measure them that way and put a size. And with the Nautilus, sometimes they measure the wing, sometimes they don't. So I've had people email and say, I want a 5711, but I want the bigger one. I don't want the smaller one. And it's like, no, they're all the same size. People just measure them differently. So this 35 from here to here, it's even a little bit smaller here. To me, there's so much vibe with this watch, and the fact that we've got the gold with the green strap.
I was just gonna say this is the best combo: the yellow gold with that green, green Patek strap, and that's not the. It's funny, like I'm sure you remember a few years ago when there was that craze on when Patek stopped producing the green Aquanaut strap for the modern Aquanaut
for the 67,
and you had straps, just the strap alone selling for $5 to $10 grand
for a piece of rubber.
Now Patek makes this one. This is still in production for the previous generation of Aquanaut, but it looks so good.
You can actually get a really nice range of colors. These ones with the flat top.
Yeah, they have like maroon. I've seen white, obviously. Green, blue, all different kinds of interesting colors.
You still get a display back with these, and then you get the deploy, and it's kind of interesting because it's like half stainless steel, which I think they did or actually half white gold, sorry, which they did, I think, for strength there, and not all yellow, which is kind of interesting. But I love these old Aquanauts. I've said it a bunch of times, and I'll say it again, that I would choose one of these over a Nautilus any day of the week. I don't know.
So it's funny. I would choose one of these, a 5060, a 5066, one of these,
Go to the big hammer.
One of these older Aquanauts over a Nautilus as well. I would not pick a new one. 5167s don't work for me. The larger case size just isn't it. But this, that smaller case size on the straight end strap, like it's really excellent.
The whole vibe is different. It's a very different watch.
Totally.
Any of the previous generation compared to the modern generation stuff, they just have a completely different feel. And so, you can't say better or worse.
No.
But they're very different. They're very different.
One thing in the chat I just wanted to hit on. So David Houston, thank you so much for joining. We appreciate you tuning in. We have a couple of clocks behind us. The one over my right shoulder, this one here is a Patek. This is the Naviquartz. And then I think we have over Rob's shoulder, we have a super, super cool one we've had for a long time. This is a Breguet, and it's like billet machined aluminum. It weighs an absolute ton.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like an aircraft cylinder. And for all I know, it could actually be, because no lie, this is probably 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Like, I am no hyperbole here. I think, I'm thinking about 15-pound dumbbells. I think that's about what this is.
I think it's an 8-day, right?
Yeah, it's an 8-day movement. Cool. It's got an alarm, and it works. You can crank it up, and she runs. It's very cool, and they've even got, it's Albert and Josh. It's in the private collection, not for sale, but they've even got boxing papers.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Which is so cool.
It's so funny. Like, we have, so in our showroom and just in our offices, we have a bunch of...
It's a Monopusher chronograph.
It is?
Alarm. Yeah. Go to the wrist cam.
Oh, that's cool.
Go to the wrist cam. It's actually a Monopusher. So this winds it up, and then if I hit here, it'll start running the chrono.
I had no idea.
Stop it and reset it. I knew it had a complication.
So in case you want to time something, you can lug that 15-pound hunk of metal around with you. Hold on. Let me check my Monopusher.
It's so heavy. I was actually legitimately nervous as I was holding it ever so precariously.
So what I was saying also is that just in our offices and in our showroom, we have a lot of really cool. They're quartz powered, but they're essentially showroom pieces, that ADs would have, hung on the wall in their showroom. Boutique clocks, yeah. So we have some Journes, we have an AP Perpetual, Royal Oak Perpetual calendar, some Breguets, some Journes.
Ren de Naples.
Oh yeah, cool. Yep. But it's funny that, again, Rob and I have talked about it, but the longer that we do this, the more all the random ancillary stuff is so cool, and we're both totally nerdy about it. I don't know about that. I don't know if I want to lean into that. Loose Tooth Rob asking, what do you think of the old school Aquanaut bracelet? He kind of likes them. Yep, that was my answer as well.
Yeah, it's not my favorite bracelet, but I'm also not really a bracelet guy. So it's a tough thing. There's a few watches where I think the bracelet's really exceptional. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes a watch really does work best on the bracelet.
Totally, yeah.
Like my Explorer you know, that I've put it on other stuff every now and again, but I always come back to
We
the
had this
bracelet, 'cause
conversation
that
earlier.
watch
The Odysseus.
belongs.
It belongs on a steel bracelet. You have the wrong opinion that you like the white gold on the rubber.
I don't like
because
the
you're an
Odysseus
animal.
bracelet. But once again, I'm not a bracelet guy, so it's like asking me about cars. Like I can't tell you anything because I don't know anything. I just know what's pretty. It's true. It's like, oh, that's pretty or that's ugly.
That's all you need to know. Giuseppe Baldini, we do not have a European location. We have one location here in Boston. That's it. But we do ship internationally, so feel free to reach out. We can give you more details on that. Where do you want to go next, Rob? We got some pretty interesting stuff on the table here.
Why don't we show a watch that has a bracelet that I think is actually really good?
Okay.
So this is one of my favorite AP references.
I actually have to agree with you.
This is an AP Royal Oak Chronograph 26300.
Yep.
So the 26300 and the 26850 or 25860, I can never get that one right.
You're thinking Kasparov? It's the 860, 26860 ST.
26860?
26860 ST,
I know all the numbers, but I always get them in the wrong order. So these are the old school. Some say they're 39, some say they're 40. Royal Oak chronographs, and I don't know why. I've always been drawn to these watches. I love that triangle at 12 o'clock. I like the markers and the layout on these. I like the size on these. This is a case where, like, I look at these, and I do like the offshores on the rubber straps and the different, like, hornback leathers and things, but this is a watch where that bracelet is really integral. There's lots of people who make integrated bracelet watches. This is a true integrated bracelet where the bracelet is integral to the design of the case and to the design of the Royal Oak in general. I like the size of these. This is a cool one because it has the blue with the orange accents. We don't see this particular
We've had a couple really interesting variants recently. So we've had obviously this one. I think this is probably my favorite variant. But then we had I don't know if we still have it, but we had the white dial with the red and you know the
it's almost like a panda.
It's kind of panda-y. That one's very cool. The brown one is super interesting with the orange.
Cool.
That's really good. Okay, there you go. I mean, they're great. And it's funny that, you know, this is kind of like the generation that after this, I start to lose. I think AP's lost the plot a little bit, or I don't love the generations that followed after this one as much as I love this. This is like the right size to me. The thickness, first of all, the diameter is the right size. It's not too thick. The bracelet is like a lot thicker than you know my piece, but it's still super wearable and it still has like that Royal Oak elegance to it.
It's still very light.
Yes.
Maybe that's like the old class and things like that. But it's not a heavy watch. You'd be very comfortable to wear this all day. It's just they're vibey.
It's different too. You don't see many of these. The blue with the orange is really, it pops really
However,
well.
speaking of being wrong, Justin was very wrong last week when he talked about how a date is such a great feature to have on a watch.
You're gonna bring
Go to the wrist cam one more time just to prove how this watch would be improved by the elimination of the date.
Oh my God, Robert.
Look at that date between, at least on a chrono, the 4:30 date makes sense.
All they needed to do was make that blue, make the disc blue with white text. You would not even see it. It would blend right in.
So basically you're telling me if you don't see the date, it's good. So you might as well not
but
have
like
the
I
date.
said,
you might as well not
I'm
have
pretty
it.
sure I have like early onset dementia or something. I forget the date constantly. I can literally look at a calendar. I can like turn around in my chair, do one of these, and you could say, Justin, what date is it? And I'll be like, I have no friggin' idea. Let me check my handy dandy watch, and it's right there. So I like having a date very much. It's like the most useful complication for me, but I'm an idiot, so that's all there is there.
Other than a specific calendar watch or a Lange, no watch has been improved by adding a date.
Oh my God.
Feel free to at me. Come at me.
Feel free to tell Robbie's wrong. If you agree with him, don't say anything. It's fine. All right, let's move on to some non-round watches. Actually, again, but we got to talk about this Reverso. This is now the second time we've had this example, this model, and it is so freaking cool. I'm gonna pull up the details because I know I'm gonna get the name of the artist wrong.
Yeah. Ooh, this one's hard to show, but I'm gonna do my best because the case back is prone to reflections, but
you'll get it good. Yeah. Ooh,
so Jaeger has done a lot of Reversos with artwork on the back of them. And a lot of them are very like high complication, handcrafted kinds of things, and they're like way out of the reach of most people, not only because they're expensive, but also because you just can't find them. Like, I don't know who has them, who sells them, but we don't see them here.
Well, I mean, like you know, we've talked many times with Patek with their world timers. You know, it's such a difficult process, and there are so few people that still practice the art of enameling.
Yeah.
This isn't you know, this isn't the same.
This isn't cloisonné.
Correct. I was going to say this is not cloisonné, but this isn't you know where an artisan essentially engraves the case back and then using you know enamel, they fill certain areas with different colors and whatnot. And you know this is one of the simpler ones actually. You know I'm sure you've seen the ones with like you know a Rembrandt on the back of it. You know with a full you know pastoral scene that is
one of
different
like
colors.
Starry Night by Van Gogh and all that.
But so this one, so it's the Gillermo Ceniceros limited edition. They did 50 pieces of this one, and I, you know, excuse my ignorance, but as far as I know, Gillermo Ceniceros is clearly an artist. I believe he's a Mexican artist. I'm gonna have to look it up.
I had looked it up back when I wrote the description, but I don't recall at this point because it's been a while.
50 pieces. You know, it's the Grand Reverso 976 case, so it's the larger case size, which for me is like the only drawback on this watch, because if this was in the the Reverso Classic case size, like oh my, or the Tribute, my God, I would lose my mind over this
The Tribute
thing.
and the Classic they're both kind of like a medium in terms of the way it goes. This is definitely the large.
Yeah.
But it's nice. The thing that's cool about this is like on the surface, it's a standard Reverso, so you don't feel like you know. It doesn't feel too kind of niche. It doesn't feel too specific to anything. And it's also at a price point where it's like, it's not like you have to be absolutely in love with his work in order to buy it.
No. Well, the thing is like, you know,
but it is very cool.
You and I, when that piece came in, I had no idea that this was actually, you know, based on or, you know, a reproduction of this specific artist's work. And it just looks so appealing. And it's just, again, like we were already talking about, that just the process and how rare those enameled caseback Reversos are just made it so cool. I mean, we're asking $13,900 for this. Like, that's not much
for
more
something
than just
where
a
there's only
standard
50 pieces.
And again, like that's not much more than just a standard steel Reverso cost. You know what I mean? Like you're paying maybe what, a 4 or 5K premium for super limited with the enameling. I'm a huge fan. I really, really, really wish, or I hope that they do one. Not necessarily, you know, this specific artist, but I hope they do something in that smaller case size and we get to see it.
That would be cool.
They're so cool.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Same thing though. I wish it was a little smaller because with tank-shaped watches, I like the Cartier kind of thing, and when it's just like a little bit more compact.
Totally.
Yeah. Where to next? We're doing kind of oddballs this week. I feel like we're doing things that are kind of like the 5000 is kind of like off the beaten path. This Reverso is kind of funky. Let's talk about a funky Patek.
Okay.
The 5066, we have it yellow or rose gold on a green. Is that yellow or rose?
That's yellow.
It is yellow.
Yep.
That's a beautiful yellow.
It's gorgeous.
It's really deep.
Well, I mean, it's, you know, what, 90s? Like, it's got
patina.
Nice patina to it.
So here's another funky Patek that uses the same movement. And this was a very short-lived watch.
The 6006?
Yeah, I mean, this had what, a 2-year lifespan, 3 years, something like that? This was very short.
It was definitely, it was, I don't know if it was 2, but it could
And
have
this
been
this is kind of the evolution of this 5000, because they were making the 5000 here, and then the 5000 became the 6000, which looks similar to this, and then this was the 6006. They made it slightly bigger. They changed the hands a little bit, but other than that, it's still kind of like you can see the theme running. And this is the watches where they were getting into this almost like speedometer
It's such
style.
an unusual style choice for Patek.
Oh, it's so like, it's almost like the anti-Patek, like the case shape, the hands, the font, everything about it is kind of funky.
And when you think about it as well, so this watch is, this was like early 2000s, 2003, 4, 5, 6, something around there, wasn't it?
Like the 5000 or the 6000?
The 6006, wasn't that?
6006 is very recent.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking 6000. Sorry, 6000.
Yeah.
The 6000 was around that time, but
yeah,
but
like 05 through 2015, 16, something like that, right?
I didn't realize it was that long.
Well,
But
they did a bunch of
anyways, at the time when they introduced the model, you know, Patek hadn't yet jumped into the sportier kind of pilot style watches and, you know, the more, just the things that we're more familiar with them doing now. This was like totally out of left field for them. You know, like you're saying, with those like very kind of austere white baton hands.
Yep.
You know, and the very, very unusual layout on the dial there. Like it's.
And there's no Pateks that have this kind of case where it's like, it's very kind of flat. There's no angles, there's no bevels. It's like, it's very slick. It's, you know, it's almost minimalist in a very cool way.
I mean, it's super thin. I mean, it's.
Oh yeah, very thin. And this is cool because whoever we got this from must have had this strap custom made, because we have a black gaiter with this red stitching, which perfectly pulls out that little bit of red we have there on the date pointer. But to me, it works really well on this watch. And you get a deploy, one of the few Calatravas that does come with a standard factory deploy. I think it's killer.
But I mean, at 39 mil, super unusual. Like, this is a really interesting Patek. I think it's overlooked, you know. Yeah, it's a really, really cool watch.
We now have the 6007 in the standard Patek lineup, but I prefer this. I don't know what it is. I like this watch better than the 6007. I feel like
the 6007 loses a little bit with those Arabic hour markers that are pushed out further to the, you know, you lose that outer date track kind of. Like, it's just not, I don't know, it's not as busy in a.
Yeah, because that
sounds
has a
dumb.
standard
That
date
sounds
at 3
dumb.
o'clock.
That it's yeah, exactly. So you don't get the kind of like crazy, overwhelming busyness of that dial, which for some reason just works.
I also like that if you didn't have this on the red stitch strap, the red wouldn't be such a feature.
True.
And you could tone that down, whereas on the 6007s, the color is very strong. And it, like, to me, it kind of puts that in a box where it's like it lives in this color.
Instead of this, you know, that very basic white date pointer hand with that red arrow, you get a color coordinated center sweep seconds. So like it's just a totally different thing.
Yeah.
They you know, it's the logical progression of the design of this line, but I think again it's so funny, like whatever. I mean, shocking that Rob and I like watches from 10, 15, 20 years ago, but like this is the sweet spot for me in that design.
I think the hard thing too is that I tend more traditional, right? Like I don't go for the more sporty kind of I like the idea of watches that straddle dress and casual, where it like works in both ways. I feel like that one does it really well.
It does.
And I know that's what they're going for the 6007, and I think a lot of people find it.
I think it's way too sporty.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will still use that versatility and use it as a watch that they can wear all the time.
Especially with that kind of like faux carbon fiber strap material, and in the center of the dial. It just, I don't know. It's a weird thing for me. Like this works, this makes sense. This is still very Patek to me, but the 6007 for whatever reason.
So what about 6007 on calfskin?
That's different. That's better. That's better. I still prefer this because it's just funkier. The 6007 is more traditional, like you said, with that center sweep seconds and everything. So, yeah, because I didn't even think you lose that little subdial down at 5 o'clock there.
Yeah, because that has a standard movement in it.
Right.
It doesn't have the 240. That's 240 micro rotor versus a standard Calatrava movement, whatever that new reference is. Okay, your turn.
Why don't we talk about? Go ahead and show off those two guys. Let's go total opposite end of the spectrum now. I feel like, I don't know, we don't really talk about Tudor all that often.
They both have it.
Do they really? They're both brand new, fresh?
Practice safe Tudors.
You know, Tudors are great pieces. Like, you know, I was telling someone here today that like my first like quote unquote real watch was a Black Bay, the original Black Bay, way too big for my wrist, you know, like looked ridiculous, but like I wore it everywhere for a couple of years, loved it, like beat it up, traded it, got a good value for it. Like they're great watches.
That's what, you know, that's the thing about Tudor is I think in terms of like bang for your buck, it's really hard to do better. You know, there's a couple Omegas that are kind of in that price point, but I think you really do get a well-made watch at a really fair price. And now with things like the Black Bay 58, the Black Bay 54,
They're so good.
they're appealing to a wider audience. And I feel like they're refining a lot. Like
100%.
as they go, each generation, each new release gets better and better and better.
Yeah.
And that's not always easy to do. You know, we forget that like trying to come up with these things takes years and years and years of R&D and development and a lot of time and money. And then the fact that Tudor kind of keeps going. Like I think the first versions of these Black Bay Chronos that we saw were the two-tone on the boon straps. Because I remember when they came out, and I liked it because it had kind of that like old school Paul Newman feel with some of those, even though obviously it's completely different, but it had that kind of vibe of like the gold Paul Newmans with the way they did the dials. And so now...
But honestly, even that being said, they were a little bit clunky. You know, there were...
And they still are. Like, it's a generous watch. It's not...
But again, they've refined the design, you know, each generation. This is now, what, the second or third gen? This is the third gen now, because they came out with, you know, the regular one on the bracelet, you know, the standard Black Bay Chrono. You know, and now we have this generation with the Jubilee.
Yep.
You know, it feels a little bit more refined.
Yeah.
And this one reminds me a lot of, you know, the old big blocks. You know, it doesn't. The big block kind of like perfectly straddled that like in between of, you know, it's bigger than a Daytona, you know, thicker. It's obviously not
nice
as,
taper
you know.
to the bracelet.
What's that?
I was just saying, it's a nice taper to the bracelet.
Yeah,
like it doesn't get too fat down here.
One of my biggest pet peeves is that a bracelet has to taper or else it just does not work for me.
And it's a great comparison because if you like a big block, this will fit you perfectly.
Exactly.
This will fit you perfectly. And the Jubilee's great because it's got a lot of links, so it curves a lot, so it's very comfortable. It doesn't flare out on the sides, so like it fits even though it's big. And the blue is good. I like the blue.
Great.
The blue is good. The great is this.
Oh, God.
This is great. And I could care less about the soccer team that it's tied to. But I like me some pink. And I think this is killer. And the pink with the black subs, it's a pink panda, bro. How can you hate that? How can you hate a pink panda on a Jubilee?
I love it.
I would wear this watch, 100%. I love it. I think it's great
you know,
looking.
I mean, honestly, even at 41 mil, you know, it's 14, almost 14 and a half mil thick, but like it's still, even for me with, again, a 6.5-inch wrist, like I can wear it. It's comfortable. Yeah.
It looks good.
It's
so
much watch for the money. It's, you know, $4,500, something like that.
Not this one though.
The pink? No, the pink is more. Sorry, the blue I'm saying is like $4,500. The
blue
pink is more.
Yeah, this
is like $9.
This is your bang for the buck right here because this is a fantastic watch at this price. And this to me is like I kind of like a Speedmaster. I like a chronograph, but I want to do something different. Maybe you want something with a little bit more water resistance because these are not fake screw down pushers, which you do find on some watches where they look like screw downs, but they're not. Yeah. These are legit screw down pushers. You have a screw down crown. So like this, you know, a Speedmaster's not a ton of water resistance because of those pump pushers.
Right.
This will do you better there. It has a date if you're like Justin and you really need a date. But at least
an idiot.
At least it's at 6 o'clock and it's not at 4:30.
No, it totally works.
I would wear this watch with a date.
They're great.
This I would wear in the pink. I love it. I think it's great. I love it on the Jubilee. I really like this watch, but $9 grand's too much money.
Yeah, it is. That's fair. Please buy this watch. So a quick question in the comments asking, you know, obviously the integrated bracelet sports watch market has cooled. Wondering if we're seeing a change in asks from clients, and if so, what are we hearing? So the market for integrated bracelet sport watches has cooled, but really demand for them has not gone away. Now it's just the prices are at a more approachable level. So honestly, we are selling just as many Daytonas, Royal Oaks, Nautilus, you know, as ever. Now honestly, they're more approachable and they're more attainable for a lot of people now, because 2 years ago when, you know, a 15202 was $100 grand, $120,000.
Yeah.
So many people got priced out, obviously. Now that they're back in a much more, you know, affordable price bracket, a lot more people are, you know, have the ability to go out and grab one now.
I think it's important to remember that it's not that the market for integrated bracelet sport watches has gone down. the market for everything has gone down. It's not like people have turned away from one segment to go to another. It's not that kind of effect. This is simply the watch market correcting from the insanity that was like the pandemic.
That being said, we are seeing just, overall on like a macro level, we're seeing more interest and more appetite for smaller, more complicated, dressier pieces than previously, was kind of was in vogue. Obviously, again, everybody wanted that steel sport watch and was willing to pay big money for it. But the pendulum, it's just, it does one of these. It's a roller coaster, and the pendulum is swinging back in the other direction. And again, we're just moving back towards smaller.
I think also the market has kind of broadened a little bit, because you had a lot of people who had collections that were entirely steel sport watches. Right. Whether it was like they had a Daytona and they had an AP and they had a Patek or whatever it was, or they had like all Rolex or they had whatever. And so we were seeing a lot of these customers who that was all they were interested in. That was all they would trade. It was all they would buy. I think people got a little bored of that, and they wanted to start branching out and adding more breadth to their collection. And so I think we're seeing that too, where you reach that saturation point of it's like, man, how many blue dial steel sport watches can I own?
Hey, shut up. But
you only have one. You have one blue dial steel sport watch, which is good.
Along that same vein, when you think about it, for the longest time, the watch collecting world was tiny. We liked it. There were always lots of manufacturers. They were always making interesting pieces, but really, the collecting world was quite small. Very, very, it was the same people buying pieces from the same companies, trading them amongst themselves kind of thing. And, we've talked about it a million times, but with the rise of social media, with the renewed interest in watches, more people jumped in, say, roughly 10 years ago, maybe 10 to 15 years ago. And when you think about kind of the life cycle of a collector, it makes sense that at this point in time, 10 to 15 years in general, most collectors in the market are now broadening their horizons, and they've like Robert said, they've had the Daytona, they've had the Royal Oak, they've had the Nautilus, they've kind of checked off all of those big ticket things that every watch collector aspires to, and now, which is super fun for us, people are really interested in obscure stuff, and they're much more willing to go further afield and kind of take what they, what might be seen as like a collecting risk, and pick up a piece like this Breguet Tourbillon, which is insane.
It's so funny. We have seen such a high volume of these recently, and it is completely coincidental. We are not out there like sourcing these watches and like trying to.
We don't have a safe full of Breguet Tourbillons that we're just trying to pump the values on. We promise.
No.
But really, like Rob said, we've seen a lot of them come through just in the past
so
4 or 5
many of
months.
these.
We've had maybe
and not new ones.
No.
Not like new style, big ones and all of that. We've been seeing these old ones. They're like a 3,000 reference, right?
I'm gonna pull it up.
3 something. And these are like Breguet, obviously, Breguet, the man himself, was the inventor of the tourbillon back in the
3350
dark ages, 3350.
Abraham Louis in 1720.
Making this stuff, like truly making it by hand, like what an amazing thing to think about. And I think that these watches do him great justice, because ultimately, like, I love the fact that it is the time and the tourbillon, and that's it. And it's almost like kind of in the style of Journe, where like the tourbillon is just about as big as the dial.
Yeah, it's actually very funny. There's far more negative space there than there is like actual time telling.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, and it's beautiful. It's beautifully proportioned. It's beautifully laid out. It's not a flying tourbillon because you get that bridge across the front, but I actually love that. I love that polished bridge going across the front of the turb.
The real, like, you got to show off the movement on this thing. Boing.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I mean, like, tourbillons oftentimes don't have much to show on the back, because obviously the big deal is the tourbillon, and then that your running train and your fourth wheel and things like that are usually like kind of tucked in there anyway. So why not just take that movement and decorate it to the absolute highest degree you can? And it's so cool because from this side, it doesn't feel overly ornate or
Not at all.
gaudy or
Not at
gauche.
all.
And then when you want it to be, you can always admire it and enjoy it.
It's funny, we just sold a white gold version, which was absolutely stunning as well, but the engraving, you know, the decoration on the movement didn't stand out as much. And
Is the movement plates white gold on the white gold one?
It is, yeah.
Ah,
and this,
interesting.
with the rose gold plate, for whatever reason,
Yeah.
it is just, it's so clear, it's so just like in your face, and
Yeah.
it's just
As I'm
super
moving
elaborate.
it through the light too, like when the light catches the blued hands, sorry, sometimes I get these bad reflections, but when the light catches the blued hands, and there's even a blued seconds hand on the tourbillon, and it's so cool. It's really great. Like, what is this, 37?
size?
Yeah.
I believe so. Let me
I
look,
think it's
hold on.
somewhere around there, 37, 38.
36, actually.
No way.
Yeah.
It wears big for a 36. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, again, which we've talked about, Breguet's smaller case size, but those bigger lugs, you know, those aren't huge, but with the way that they stick straight out off the case there.
It's also like it's got nice presence this way without being overly thick. You get that beautiful coin edge. Like, it's just everything Breguet. I love that it's on a tang because you don't have to fuss with a deploy.
No, I don't do deploys at all.
These are stellar.
Yeah.
These are really, really good. I really like these. And tremendous value.
Yeah,
like, if you think about,
this one's not priced yet, but we do have. So we have. It's crazy. We literally have we have one regulator tourbillon in platinum, which is $59,500. We have another platinum standard tourbillon for $47,400. That white gold $33.57 tourbillon, that was $48,500. So again,
that one's slightly bigger. The 57, I think, is like a 38 mil case or something. It's a few mils bigger.
Might be.
So that might have been like slightly more.
But again,
expensive,
regardless, for under $50K, you're getting an insane amount of watchmaking.
Yeah.
And it's just so classic. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And this is one, like, I mean, I would wear this with a T-shirt. Like, it looks so
You put it on a nice calfskin.
Yeah.
Even a color or something like that, and
Absolutely.
it would look really good. Let's do one other tourbillon, even though it's sold.
Sure.
This just went sale pending before we started this show, but we wanted to bring it out because we don't see very many of these. Part of the reason because they only made 200.
Yeah.
And this, actually, it's really funny. From what I understand, Lange did not want to make this watch.
Really? Why?
I can't remember the full details of the story, but apparently they were somewhat against making this watch, and they didn't think it was a good idea. And eventually the watchmakers kind of pushed it through because they made it anyway. and I think Lange was like, all right, I guess we'll make it. So this is a Lange 1 tourbillon. This is the classic 38.5 millimeter size. They didn't make it bigger, which to me is amazing. And I love how it has all of the classic design elements of a Lange 1 in terms of power reserve, big date, and the offset time. And then in the space that would have been negative anyway, or where the traditional small seconds would be, they were like, here's a tourbillon with a beautifully polished bridge connecting it in there like that.
I also love that they covered part of the tourbillon cage. Like, it sounds so counterintuitive to say we're gonna, you know, I mean, Patek is the master of the hidden tourbillon.
Of you don't need to see this turby.
Of the I'm so rich I don't even need to show off my tourbillon. But I love the fact that Lange did this. You know, they obscure the top like third of the tourbillon cage. It's so cool, and it's still like, I don't know what it is about it, but it still somehow manages to maintain like the classic offset weird but right proportions of a Lange 1, you know, on the dial, even with all that added business going on.
Yeah.
So it's really, really special.
On the back, you still get the standard, just about 3/4 plate. It's probably pretty close.
Again, that
and
decoration.
Then in this case, yeah, the decoration, because Lange is known for their engraved balance cocks. So they engraved both the balance cock and the kind of bridge that connects you onto the underside of the tourbillon there, which is absolutely lovely.
Honestly, even that wheel, the spiral spokes on that wheel are stunning.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
There's a lot of watchmaking going on here, and the fact that these are priced where they are boggles my mind. I'm not surprised that this one sold quickly because it's a stunner, and there's a date that works. I mean, Lange does it right. Lange made it a feature. They made it a complication, And
I love a big date.
Yeah,
There's nothing better than a big date.
It works. It works. Look
Yeah,
at that.
What's that, Adam?
Does it make that watch better?
Yes.
It does.
Yes.
I mean, come on. Come on, Adam. Don't make us demote you
Lange
again,
one,
man.
like, if you got rid of that and it didn't have a big date, like if they did a dateless
That'd be
Lange
so
one,
dumb. Oh my God.
I wouldn't buy it. You know?
I really hope that
No,
never happens.
it'd be really weird,
It'd be
huh?
so stupid.
It'd be really weird.
What was I gonna say?
We
Hold
have
on.
10 minutes left.
So Aditya said, after we were talking about that Breguet, he said that Breguet is out of this world. So if Aditya, if you think that Breguet is wild, let us blow your mind for real now.
Is this on the web?
I'm gonna look right now. I'm pretty sure it is. Let's see. Let's see.
I want to make the hands pretty, but I guess it kind of doesn't matter.
It is in stock 1062, which is
like goodness.
Come on. So this
was probably 300 grand or something.
I'm gonna look and see if I can find what the MSRP was.
But it's going to be the MSRP from like 20 some years ago, so it's going to be
I'm sure it was still crazy. So this is a reference 3755 PR. So it's a platinum manual wind tourbillon perpetual calendar, obviously fully skeletonized. It is an absolute monster of a watch.
Yeah, this is nuts. I don't even know what to
MSRP was
say.
$275,500. $275,500.
Yeah, I was pretty darn close. So adjusted for inflation,
Unbelievable.
actually, that's probably 300 grand.
Well, actually.
And I love the way they took like the decorations of the movement like they had on this one, and they said, okay, we'll still do that, but we'll do it on these pieces of metal that are like 2 hairs thick and like skeletonize all the bridge work so you can really see everything. And like you were saying, doing it on the rose gold, like the fact that it's a platinum case with a rose gold movement like that, oh.
I mean, every square centimeter of that movement is decorated. I mean, you can sit there with a loop and just get lost in that for hours. It's unbelievable.
I couldn't wear this because I'd do nothing. I would crash my car. I would be completely out to lunch at every meeting I'm in. I would not know what's going on in the world because I'd just be looking at this watch.
Unbelievable. This is an absolute stunner. This is by far the best Breguet I've ever seen in my life. I'm like totally enamored. I'm totally blown away by this watch.
And 30 cents on the dollar
Yep.
for all intents and purposes.
Is crazy.
This is where the watch market is nuts because I think about this being 100K, and I think about the people who spend 100K on a 5712, and it's like I get it, I really do, because 5712 is great, and like at some point you have to say to yourself, it's not about logic. I cannot rationalize the irrational.
Nothing about this table is about logic.
Nothing about what we do here is logical and rational. But you get to that point where it's like, okay, if you want it, you got to pay for it. Yeah. And I had a customer back when 5711s were climbing. He was looking at them when they were 30, and he's like, they're kind of high right now, I'll wait. And then they were 40, same thing, they were 50. And I think when they hit 60 or something, he was like, that's it.
Damn it.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Just give me your best price, I'm buying it, whatever it is.
Smart
And he did well because then they kept going up from there. I think he still owns it, though. I don't think he ever sold it. He actually likes it, and he wears it all the time, and I think he's worn it a lot. But I think about that, and I look at that for 100K, and sitting on like this side of the table as like a watch dealer, somebody who works in the industry, I'd put my money there.
I mean, the thing about this, too, is that like the common argument against Breguet and against Breguets in general is that they're too small, too dainty, for like the modern appetite. This is 40 mil. This is
and
a
it's
fully
heavy because it's platinum with a gold movement. Like
even though they skeletonized it and took all that material out.
You pick that up and it's like, blah. It's a chunky watch, and it is fussy. Right? Like, we can't lie about that. It is quite the fussy watch because there's an awful lot going on and it's very decorated. But I mean, like, that is true high horology.
Absolutely.
At a price that is expensive. But within our world of watches and what people will pay for things like Richard Mille and, some of these other things. And even APs. I was about to say, you think about APs and, like, 100K. is kind of the beginning of the crazy stuff,
Sure.
in my opinion. And that gets you into solid crazy territory the beginning of crazy land prices.
I would put this... I mean,
that was the worst argument anybody's ever made. I think I need to go
Did
home.
anybody follow that? I don't know. I sure as hell didn't.
That was so bad.
All right, we got 5 minutes left.
Oh, my God.
And, yeah, Aditya agreed. He said that looks better than any Journe he's ever seen. And there are very few... I can think of...
That's a hot take.
That is a hot take. But I can think of a couple that I think are better. But anyways...
Is anybody like throwing flames in the comments?
No. Everybody's been cool.
That's nice.
Yeah.
You guys are so kind and polite.
David Houston, cool idea. We'll I'll definitely make note of that. So
you're leaving me in suspense over here.
He'd love to see an episode on sleepers from us, brand-wise, which I think we've done in the past, but it's been a long time. We can do it again.
Yeah, we can do that.
He said obviously the stuff on our site is mind-boggling. Great stories of kind of WTF moments, both high and low on from EWC, the sales floor, etc. Would be cool.
Appreciate that.
I think we got to end with this guy.
Yeah, we should show that off.
So this is not live on the site yet, but it's going to be soon. I hope you guys are familiar with this watchmaker, but this is a J.N. Shapiro. So I'm going to pull up the details. So that
American watchmaking.
Yep.
Which is very cool because, a lot of people, I think, are really taken by the romanticism of, like, the one-man watchmaker. And, like, we think of, like, Philippe Dufour, and you think of, like,
Kari,
the early Journes, and you think of Kari. Yeah. And, like, you have this kind of idea in your mind, and it's like, this is in that lane, and it's at a much more accessible price point than Voutilainen or Journe or any of those guys we were just talking about. Obviously, Dufour is on another planet, but this is really stunning. This is really the first one of these we've gotten to see in the metal and gotten to really kind of study and look at.
Well, so when Josh was here, actually, he brought some pieces. So Josh Shapiro, actually, we're friendly with him. We know him. He's been in our offices and he's brought some cool pieces in. So we've seen some really interesting things. But like Rob said, this is the first one that we've had. I think we had one other for sale, maybe? No, this is the first one? Okay.
This is the first that we've really had in the store.
So this is the Infinity Series, Infinity Series Oster. So it was a limited edition. It was a special order piece that if you placed an order, you basically worked directly with Shapiro, and you could come up with basically whatever dial you wanted to in this steel case. So this has a totally unique engine turn dial, and that's one of the things that Shapiro's really known for are his dials and the decoration. Hand turned guilloche, just really.
Adam, can you try to get closer?
Of course.
Just a hair.
See if you can get in there.
I want to see. Yeah, that's better. Perfect. It's hard to get without the reflections because as soon as I get where like the light will light it up, it just like the whole thing just washes out.
So this is obviously, you have a purple base, and then you have rose gold engraved numerals, and there's a bunch of different patterns of guilloche there as well. So you have like that. Is that like a houndstooth in the center? That's wild.
It's really crazy. It's really
so
like
cool.
It's amazing. And when you loop this and you look at the textures and the finish and you look at like the hours and hours and hours that clearly went into creating this. I love the shape of the hands. I love the rose gold against the purple. Like, there's nothing to say about this watch that's not good. Everything on this thing
It's funny because, like,
incredible.
It's very easy. You could say, well, that Shapiro is the best American watchmaker, which, no shots fired, but that's not saying very much. But he's I think he stacks up with watchmakers in Europe. It's incredibly high quality.
If I think about this watch, right there, you could spend a little less.
Yeah.
And you could buy a Schwartz Etienne with a Kari Voutilainen dial.
Sure.
And the dials are stunning. The watch is good. But in my opinion, this thing has a soul that you don't get with something like that. Or even, I'm trying to think of what else has that kind of level of dial on it.
But beyond just the level of artistry that is involved there, I think the beauty and the real draw for Shapiro's and pieces like this is the actual connection that the person, obviously if you work, if you're the original owner, the original purchaser, you get to have this personal relationship with the brand, and in this case, the brand is one dude.
Yep.
You get to have a personal interaction with him to create exactly what you want to create, and then you get to work together, and it's a collaborative kind of effort to create this thing that you both work on together, and then you get this final result, and it's absolutely incredible. So that's kind of the beauty. Like when I think about true independence at this point, like even Gautier is kind of, you know, they're kind of a little bigger than that at this point, but there are certain brands out there that like there's this almost like mystique that goes along with their pieces because it's such a personalized, such a unique experience, and really no two are the same, which is the best part.
And that's the cool thing, even if you buy this from us and you've bought this secondhand and you haven't necessarily worked with Shapiro on this watch, you're still buying something that is going to be completely bespoke.
Totally.
And something that is going to be very unique and something that you're not going to see, you know, Submariners are great, Speedmasters are great.
Of course.
And there's a lot of them out there for a reason because they are great. But there's a lot of them out there, and a lot of people don't want that. You know, even like if you think about like a Chronometer Blue or something like that, like there's a lot of them out there. He's been making those for a long time.
Yeah.
And this is, you know, maybe twice as cool for less money.
Right.
So I don't know. It's pretty neat.
That's a cool one.
I like seeing watches that have character and that have a soul and don't feel like just this mass-produced kind of like here's another one, here's another one, here's another one.
It's funny, like when you look at what we actually talked about today, you know, going from the Shapiro to the enamel dialed reverse or enameled case Reverso to this crazy Breguet to that crazy Breguet to the Tiffany 5000,
Lange Tourbillon.
Everything beyond really the Tudors and, you know, maybe this 6006.
But even that's like a quirky, weird Patek. Like we kind of did a show on stuff you should be paying attention to.
I know, right? We didn't even know we were doing it, people. That's how good we are.
We themed it.
Yeah.
We themed it on the fly. We'll do it live.
Anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for tuning in. It's 6:02 p.m. We gotta go. Yeah, thanks for joining. That was fun. We threw that together. That was about the seat of our pants, but that was a good time.
Thank you all for participating.
Yeah, like Rob said, like, subscribe, tune in next week at 5 for another. Actually, we will not be here next week at 5. Sorry, we'll figure it out. We'll get back to you on that one. I will be back with you guys tomorrow for a Take 5. I honestly might be talking about some of these pieces on the table here, but we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, say goodbye.
Toodaloo. See ya.
Bye all.